And I'm back. So third part of Retrospective 2019 ramble. And so I don't, in a way, it got me to a point where like my loyalty to Luli is absolute because I understand what the deal is. And I understand her value too, like her actual rarity level. And that's something I discovered dating, of course, and this would be true of all sorts of different relationships, professional relationships, and you know, if you're looking for a job and you see different types of employers or situations, there's a value. Humans make value judgments, and you know what? That's just kind of our deal. And I would say the human soul seeks improvement, and it's natural. It's natural and normal. Nothing to get worried about or frustrated or upset or offended by. Like in my company, it used to bother me if somebody quit. I'd be like, hey, what's wrong with my company? You know, no, Sean, nothing's wrong. There's nothing wrong with you either. People just move on. That's the deal. And especially young people in their 20s. They're still sorting out a lot of things. Still sorting a lot of things out later, too. So with Luli, my loyalty is absolute, and not just because I promised, and not just because I committed, and not just because I decided, but because of practical, bedrock, iron-hard, mercenary reasons as well. That Luli is amazing, and she's a rarity. She's like 1 in 50,000. And I look at her with wonder in my eyes, I look at her with love in my eyes, and I just feel so grateful, and I just count my lucky stars every time I'm waking up with her. And she's so sweet and so devoted, and she just grabbed me. She's just like, I love you so much, and I'm like, wow, this is really amazing. So I'm having a really great experience, and all of those things leading up to that sort of helped me understand myself and understand the world around me in a way that's allowing me to have this really wonderful relationship. And in terms of institution of marriage, I'm not that keen on it. But I did make a choice, and I think the institution in terms of like a structure, a social and legal structure, actually did make sense at this point. And so I'm enjoying it. There you go. Long story short, I got married halfway through 2019, and it's working out in just an absolutely lovely way. And I think many years ago, when I was thinking of doing a relationship show where I'd have like a YouTube channel, I just interview different people, and I'd still like to do it, by the way. God, I probably should do it. I'm in Salt Lake. There's lots of people down here, up here. Excuse me. I think that water gave me hiccups. All right. So anyway, yeah, I met this woman who was going to be my co-host, and I think she was older than me. Get myself into trouble there. And she had been married 6 times and was now going into her 7th. And I was just like, hey, maybe there's something wrong with the institution itself. Maybe you should just not get married. You should have like a different strategy. Oh no, she would hear nothing of that. And so where was I going with that? So I don't think it's for everybody. I think a lot of people are making custom arrangements, and I think that's great, you know. And of course, in my line of work, it's almost always 20-something artists, and they really are making things up as they go along. And of course, they meet me. They make assumptions because of my age and my aspect that, you know, I'm going to see the world in a certain way, when, of course, I don't. I am very open in how I view things. Like, I think it's great if any human that's doing their own thing, awesome, do that. But mind you, don't put some sort of obligation on me to go along with what you're doing. That said, yeah, I gotta tell you, it's really nice. It's really nice to not sort of have that. Like when I was dating, I always had sort of that, like I was always kind of on guard, you know, and now I don't feel that way. And it's I've said this before, but the fact is, after, you know, that experience, it was like, what are the chances that someone is going to really know who you are? Like really get to know the real you. And then, what are the chances that person will love you completely and accept you wholly in spite of and because of all of those things? It's rare, guys. Doesn't happen that often. And on top of that, what are the chances that person will be hot? And so with Luli, my eyes were just sort of opened one day and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And of course, in her end, her eyes were also opened because this is a very headstrong woman. She needed that 4 years to sort of like process everything and understand sort of the same kind of lesson, you know. All right, so I talked about the business, talked about my personal life. Haven't talked much about my family. My kids are doing good. I've got good relationships with all of them. My oldest, who is a girl, she's 20 now. That I could stand to spend some time on that relationship. But you know, kids, they are their own people, especially if they're adults, and you know, they have their own lives. And I think it's natural for them to kind of go away and have their own life and not necessarily stick around with their parents, you know. Yeah, well, and my first wife and I, and we get along, which is nice. Like, there's a lot of like social engineering, or what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say prejudices, but like in movies and TV and stuff, they're like, ooh, they kind of insert this drama that's not always there, you know. Like, you're not always going to fight if you're divorced. But my first wife, we were married 20 years, and she was really an amazing human being. I was watching those old videos, and I was like, oh wow, you know, like you can't be with somebody and have 4 kids with somebody, you know, and not have this closeness. Like, you had a life experience with this person. But the fact is, you can live 80 years, and if you're with someone 20 years, well, that was only 25% of your life. That wasn't your whole life. And so anyway, now I'm 50. Back to, like, I guess a final personal retrospective thing is that my feeling right now is accomplishment. Like, too late, people. I already lived. I already had my good times, had my kids. In a way, I feel like I won already. I feel like the first day of summer vacation after senior year. Like, you just did all of that. And now the world is wide open. But of course, I don't feel like that because I've already done that. And I went to college and I served an LDS mission. I was in South America for 2 years. For those of you that are interested, I don't consider myself a Mormon anymore. It's been, I think, 6 or 7 years since I went to church. I have a different thing going on that has been way better, and sort of just made my own thing up. I guess maybe that was probably always the thing that was going to happen. And of course, no hard feelings. Loved being Mormon while I was. I have nothing but great things to say about that institution. And I've never understood why, you know, people exit a certain period of their life, or they leave the church, and you know, and then they're just like so bitter about it. I'm like, well, I mean, for the most part in the USA, it's pretty easy to move on to something else. Like, you don't got to stick around. So when people criticize their spouse or criticize some organization or criticize some past situation, I don't got a lot of sympathy for that. I'm like, you know what? Find the good. Like, what, you know, how did that serve you? How did that change your life? What did you learn from it? And just move on. What's your new thing? That's what I want to. I want to hear the news about your new thing. And for me, like I am, it feels like I'm actually starting my years. I'm going to count 1. So this year I'm turning 1. It's year 1 of the new thing that I have going on. And my life is like, it's awesome now. Like it's amazing. And I have, oh yeah, that's one thing I wanted to talk about. Yeah, oh, by the way, I have several ideas that I want to just ramble about. One is, goals versus vision. So just in my way of viewing things and in my vocabulary, a goal and a vision are 2 different things. So a goal is something where you say, I'm going to do this, and then you start flailing your arms and you actually start, lifting weights, and you actually just do it. And goals can be very powerful and they can be very satisfying to achieve those. A vision, on the other hand, is kind of like the same thing, except you're not going to do anything about it. You're only creating this vision inside your head and putting emotional investment into it, and investment in terms of detailing it as well. I'll explain about that in just a second. But with a vision, there's no pressure or obligation to do anything about it. You just have it. And there's 2 good reasons why you should have a vision. And those are, 1, it makes you feel good. And you just daydreaming about it. And I believe there's a real power to just daydreaming about things. Having a pleasant fantasy. Why? Because now, in this moment, the only moment that you really have, because you're not living even an hour ago, that's already gone. You can't experience that. You can only have the thing you're doing right now. The real thing is the thing you're doing now. So daydreaming can really, even though you're thinking about the future or a pleasant past memory, serves to make you feel good now. It's a pleasant thought, and I think it sort of changes mentality and approach to life to have those positive thoughts all the time. So the other great thing about a vision is that it opens your eyes. You start to perceive things differently, and that means an opportunity that maybe you wouldn't have seen before because you never had this vision and you never wrote it down or you never clipped out pictures of it or whatever. Because you did that, you're going to notice the opportunity. It's going to change your perception in terms of having your eyes open. So when that opportunity floats by, you go, oh, this is exactly like my vision. Maybe I should talk to this person. Maybe I should go do it. So that's, I think nowadays I'm more keen on the vision aspect than the goals aspect. Because, well, for starters, just turned 50 and I've already accomplished a lot of those goals. I came, I saw, I conquered. And it feels good. So I do have a vision and not a lot of goals, really. I'm just doing what it is that I'm doing. Oh, let me just see if there's any emergencies. There are none. All right, so what else? I was going to talk about modulation, and this is just an idea and maybe something that will be useful to you, and it will also help you see yourself and the world in a more expanded way. What I've noticed watching humans is that humans have what I call modulations. They have things, they have mechanisms to avoid unpleasant tasks, but also to engage in pleasant tasks. And I think it's just a basic human thing. There's nothing wrong with it. But what I've noticed is if people are interested in something, they'll just do it. And in dating, what I noticed is if the woman was interested, guess what? All of a sudden her schedule was clear. All of a sudden she'd be picking up her phone. All of a sudden everything could become easy. All those doors are wonderfully open because she's now making time for you. which is a lovely feeling. Now, if she's not interested, guess what? Her whole labyrinth, her shifting labyrinth, kicks into gear to sort of move you out and shift you to where you need to be. And it could be she wants you to stick around because she's weighing her options. Well, wouldn't that just be a normal human thing to do? And so to become aware of that, and of course this is a la the friend zone, which is basically, that's a modulation. It's a human being, man or woman, who just modulates doing things. Oh, that's super weird. All right. Well, okay. So, modulations. So what I've noticed is people show up to their interviews. If they're interested in the job, they will make sure their schedule is cleared. They will check the traffic. They will get here on time, and they'll be looking great, and they'll be ready. They'll be ready to go. Why? Because it's important. But if it's not important, guess what? All sorts of excuses. And so, you know, it's like, yeah, if it's important, I don't know how better to say it than that. If it's important to someone, they'll make time for it. And I'm no exception. And I've noticed that, like, physical illness can become a modulation. And before I launch into this thought, I want to tell you, I'm not unsympathetic. I'm not saying that people don't have ailments, and probably ailments that are beyond me, because I've been blessed with great physical health. But I do think that a physical ailment can be a great modulation to not have to do the things you don't want to do, and then all of a sudden, you know, you can do the things that you do want to do. Headaches are a great thing, because who knows? How can you tell if someone really has one? You know, it's like, oh, I have a terrible headache, can't make it today. Oh, okay, awesome. Or it's like, oh, yep, oh, now I'm feeling better. And again, I'm not saying that people are faking it. I'm not saying there's not a thing where people have actual terrible, real, splitting, horrible physical pain and suffering issues. But what I am saying is that humans do find things to modulate, to sort of like move other people away, bring them closer, or maybe they don't do anything like that. They simply open a door. They allow a person to come in or out of their life. And for me, because I always, whenever I'm just like, those other humans, I always go, oh, but Sean, are you doing that same bull crap too? It's like, yeah. And guess what? I usually am. And I have to look at myself and just go, oh, Sean, you were just such a jag. Like, you were not great. And I'm like, oh, I do that exact thing that I, you know, sort of in my mind start grousing about other people doing them. Coming up on 20 minutes, by the way. So, by the way, I'd love to get paid to talk about things. That'd be just fantastic. I'd love it if I just got, like, on my web store. I actually have a thing. You can go on my web store and you can buy a, like, for me to talk about a topic of your choice. Why would you want to do that? I don't know, but it's there. And you, of course, would pick local pickup to get rid of the shipping charge, because you don't want to pay that. And I would refund it if someone were like, talk for an hour, because I'm not sending a package. But yeah, go to bluetablestore.com and put me to work. I'd love to get up in the morning and be like, here's 3 hours of topics to talk about, you know, and I would just go for it. So anyway, so what about me? My modulation is work, and work is a beautiful one, because if you're busy, in our culture, we value someone who's working hard, you know, really putting in them hours. And I'm like, yep, that's my modulation. It's like, yeah, I'm like really super busy at work, you know, can't do it. And so yeah, we modulate things. And then there's, you know, humans are squirrely little monkeys. Squirrel monkeys. They find ways to eat their bananas in peace. So, Yeah, modulations. Personally, I mean, I'd rather just know, but there's a reason why, you know, you don't. Like there's a politeness to it, you know. If you ask a woman out and she's not interested, well, I'm busy this week. Awesome. That's a nice polite way, and for, you know, and also to spare the other person some humiliation, you know, as opposed to her saying, well, I'm really not interested in you. Well, why? You know, oh, now she's on the spot and uncomfortable. So, you know, sometimes it's just better to be polite and sort of read the subtext, read the room. And, but of course, if she said, I'm really busy this week, how about next week? See, that means I really am busy. She really is busy this week, but she would like to actually see you. So those are, not just in the dating world, but I would say in the professional world and in general as humans, there's modulations, and there's instruments of modulation as well. Ways that we, you know, navigate these things, get rid of things we don't want to do, and invite in things that we do want to do. And so I've been like really aware of those. And I go with what the person is doing. If someone's really not interested in something, I don't try and cram that square peg into that round hole, you know, and just be like, you will do this particular type of work and get good at it. Nope. Humans they're the way that they are, and you just, like, if I were to give business advice, that would be it. Try and just figure out what someone's deal is and go with that. Go with what their real nature is. And different people are different. Like with my artists, some of them, if I give them this giant project, it will implode them. Or if I give them a stack of like 4 things to do, it will just destroy. They just can't handle it. It's too much stress. They can't think about it all at the same time, and they just end up dropping the whole ball. Lazy man's load. However, some people, they're the opposite. Like they thrive under that. They love having 4 projects because then they can, if they're, you know, this paint is drying, they can move on to the next thing. And they're organized, and they really sort of do well with that. And some with larger projects, and some people don't like to have 5 smaller projects. Some people do. And it's just, and different people are different ways, you know. And what I found in business is go with what that way is, because guess what? People are unlikely to change. But they're also, over the long term, almost guaranteed to change. So you got to do both. You got to figure out how they are and figure out where it is that they're going as well. And that's how I run my life. I don't try and make like my kids. I have my door open. I check in on them. I do all the wonderful fatherly things. But I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to make them into a certain thing or have certain expectations. You know, why don't you visit me? It's like, well, you know what? Because it's a separate human with their own separate life. And that's how that goes. And even a spouse, because we're trained, it's like, are you going to be together forever? And you got to stick with it. It's like, well, you know what? Guess what? I already know that person is very likely to change over time. Or maybe they will roughly stay the same. Me, I'm changing almost constantly. And that makes me very, you know, it makes it a prospect to sort of keep up with what I'm doing. And that's great. Some people love that dynamic, and some people are just like, ah. So in terms of business model, you know, it's worked really well for, like, I've limited contact that humans have with me. And that's actually worked out really well because it doesn't let human vagaries from either side get into the mix. But of course, in some companies, you have to work with people closely over a long period of time. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, that requires a totally different set of mechanisms. Well, guys, I have now talked for 45 minutes, and it seems like nothing. Why? Because I love to talk. And it would be, I've thought of actually telling all my stories. Yeah. Well, here's a weird thing. I haven't had health insurance for like 4 years. And that means like I rarely go to the doctor. And if I do, I got to pay for it with cash. And that's weird for them. Like, where's your insurance? I'm like, well, I just have money, you know, and here's my budget for this. And so anyway, what's weird is I have found and I believe that my brain has already everything it needs to take care of this construct. There have been many times when I wake up in the morning and in my head, like I had a dream about it, or I just had the idea right when I woke up that explained to me how to fix something about my body. At one point I had like terrible carpal tunnel from like typing 14 hours a day. And it was just so painful. And one night I had this dream that I was wrapping a shoelace around my hand, and I was doing it in this certain way, like angles and different pressure points and stuff. When I got up in the morning, I did it, and it went away. Just like within 12 hours, it just gave me all the relief I needed. And I was like, oh, you know. So at some level, my body just knew how to take care of it. Had an ingrown toenail, and it from smashing my foot. You know those ladders where you fold them in different directions, and then the middle sort of slides down? Well, I did the catch, and I just did it right on my foot, and it just hammered that foot. I kind of screwed it up. So it made the nail grow the wrong direction. And if you know anything about this, this is a painful condition. And I was going through this while I was doing my ballroom dancing thing, so that was sort of exacerbating it. So in the morning, I wake up, I have a clear image in my head, and I used a Band-Aid. Like every day I wrapped this Band-Aid on there a certain way, and it worked. It just got rid of it. Didn't need surgery, didn't need anything to happen. And I'm thinking of making a video about it because it was really amazing. And so forth. I've had that many, many times where I've sort of just had this idea and I was able to just fix myself. And, you know, my body sort of cries out for certain things like, you know what, we need you to start drinking this. And I get like a craving to drink something. And of course I have this really young child, and Luli is a first-time mom, and she is, you know, very protective. And I'm just like, you know, you don't got to worry about her. When she's hungry, she's going to chow down. And she does. You know, I have a very headstrong 3.5-year-old girl. And when she's hungry, she'll do it. And she eats healthy things. She'll plow on like carrots and chicken and mashed potatoes and whatever else, you know, beets. She just eats them. And, you know, and some days she just wants 3 popsicles, you know, all in a row. And I was like, great, I hope. And she's so young, and she's just having this wonderful, you know, mortal, human, earth life experience. It's really cool. So guys, for 2020, I'm really excited. I actually, I believe in 2020, I'll be expanding out of this current workspace. This workspace is very small. It's 20 foot by 20 foot. And I managed to do the whole operation inside of this very narrow, like sometimes just weaving myself around like a little ant. And it's a Shades of Badger hole, really, back in 2008. But I feel like the next thing is coming, and it's very exciting to me. But I think I'll do it, of course, differently than I did in the past. Very careful in, you know, who I'm inviting into it. So of course, part of my vision is to have a permanent Valhalla, and not have a Valhalla that I'm selling tickets for it, because that of course means you have to sort of flail your arms, and it's not a natural construct. But the vision that I have is to have a permanent Valhalla and just invite people who I'm interested in and just have them there. And wouldn't that be nice? However, for the time being, I may have a thing where it's it's possible to come and be here for a while, get great paint lessons, be a part of what we're doing, and you know, very short visits with very limited groups of people. And it could be a hobbyist. It could be someone who you know, wants to learn to paint. I have that now. I have people that contact me. They say, hey, can you just give me painting lessons, which we do. And I think people might fly in for that and stay some odd days. And also, it could be someone coming in to both learn how to paint and also to play. Because I have great, you know, champions of 40K or whatever the game is. And they're local. Yeah, like Utah is sort of a breeding ground for 40K players on the circuit. So, and then my favorite, which would be to have a D&D group come out, not stay in this place, but stay in the next incarnation, which would be a Valhalla-worthy type of structure. And come out and have me run role-playing games for them. And that would be really cool. And I'm definitely equipped to do that in every aspect. So that's something I've talked about. Ultimate fantasy role-playing, or ultimate D&D. I don't want to brand it that way because, of course, D&D is a trademark. But I don't believe ultimate fantasy role-playing is. That's more of like an object. All right, so anyway, so that's coming, and very excited for that. What else? Yeah, in 2020, I have very specific goals about how I'm going to consolidate the company and get on really, really, really good grounds and in a very enviable position, solidify things, and be better. Like be not just a better person, but also better for my clients. You know, a better turnaround, better experience in every way. All right, well, that's it. Coming up on an hour now, so thanks for tuning in, and I hope you got your ramble for the day.